Okay, so we all know teamwork is a big deal, right? It's something we talk about constantly. But what really, truly makes a team click? I mean, what makes them perform at their absolute best and become more than just a bunch of people doing tasks?
All right, to really get into this, let's start with a problem that, well, I'm willing to bet you've seen it firsthand. I like to call it the smart team paradox.
I mean, you've been there, haven't you? A company assembles a new team, and on paper, it's a dream. It's packed with the brightest, most talented people they have. But then, it just sputters. It gets bogged down in conflict, can't make decisions, and just plain underperforms. So, what gives? Why does this happen over and over again?
Well, the simple, kind of brutal truth is, a collection of A players doesn't just magically become an A-plus team. And the research on this is really clear. Yeah, most of the important work today gets done in teams, but just having smart people in the room is absolutely no guarantee of success. And this is where it gets really interesting. When you look at the distinction here on the slide, for, decades, the focus has always been on the individual, their IQ, their emotional intelligence or EQ. And look, those things are important, but they're not the whole story. The real engine of performance is how the group works together as one unit, and that's a whole different ballgame.
You know, this quote just hits the nail on the head. It perfectly explains why just copying what other successful teams do doesn't really work. Sure, you can teach a team the notes, like, here's how you run a daily stand-up meeting. But if they don't have that underlying music theory and heart, that deep understanding of how to work together, you're just never going to get that masterpiece performance.
Okay, so if just stacking the team with brilliant people isn't the magic bullet, then what is? Well, as we're about to see, the missing ingredient is actually the group's own emotional intelligence. And this, right here, is a huge shift in how we need to think about this. EQ isn't just something an individual has. A team, as a whole, develops its own emotional character. Group emotional intelligence, as you can see here, is the team's collective skill at managing emotions on 3 different levels: inside each person, across the group itself, and with everyone else they interact with. Okay, but why is this such a big deal? What does building this group-level EQ actually do for a team? Well, simply put, it builds the foundation for absolutely everything else. All right, take a look at this model with me, because this is really the heart of the whole thing. See that at the very bottom, the foundation? That's group emotional intelligence. When a team gets good at handling emotions, it creates those 3 crucial conditions you see in the next level up: trust, a real sense of group identity, and efficacy, which is just the belief that, hey, we can actually do this. It's those conditions that unlock real participation and collaboration, and that is what gets you the results everyone wants: better decisions and, higher productivity. So yeah, just to really hammer it home, these are the 3 pillars we're talking about. Think about it. Without trust, people are just going to hold back their best ideas. Without a shared identity, they won't feel like they're part of something that matters. And without efficacy, they'll just think, why bother? Group emotional intelligence is what builds these pillars. Okay, so now we know why this matters. But the big question is, how do you actually do it? Well, the research gives us a really clear 3-level playbook for putting this into practice.
The secret sauce here is all about building norms. You know, those unwritten rules, the habits that shape how a team behaves. The trick is to build norms that help the team get better at noticing and managing emotions, and you got to do it at 3 different levels.
Let's start at the individual level, and this story about Jill is a perfect example. Her team just sees a bad attitude, right? But what they don't see is the emotion driving it. She feels insulted, like the team was created because she wasn't doing a good enough job. An emotionally intelligent team would have norms for this. They'd see her behavior, and instead of just getting annoyed, they'd get curious about why she's acting that way. Okay, moving on to the group level. This slide shows some of the specific habits a team can build to manage its own collective mood. So on one side, for awareness, a team might have a rule to call a process check, basically hitting pause on the task to ask, hey, how are we all doing right now? And on the other side, for regulation, they might have a norm to build an affirmative environment, actively saying things like, we've got this, instead of letting the blame game take over when things get tough.
And last but not least, we've got the cross-boundary level. Because let's be real, no team works in a vacuum, right? A truly great team is good at understanding what other teams in the organization need. They act like ambassadors, building bridges and offering support. They're the kind of team that would nominate a partner team for an award, just to strengthen that relationship. Now, I know what you might be thinking. This all sounds fantastic. but it also sounds, well, kind of hard, maybe even a little uncomfortable. And that brings us to a really important practical question.
I mean, think about it. Why would anyone choose to do this? To be more vulnerable, to have those awkward conversations, all for some benefit to the group that might be way down the road? Just telling them it'll boost productivity probably isn't going to cut it. Well, the answer is actually pretty simple, but it's incredibly powerful. People will not do the hard, emotional work unless they feel an emotional connection to the team and want it to succeed. You have to appeal to the heart, not just the head.
So how does a leader actually do that? How do you kickstart this thing? Well, it might start with something that feels a little forced, like telling everyone they have to go to an offsite event. But the key is how you design that event. You design it to create real connection, a sense of safety. Because once that emotional investment is there, the team will be so much more open to working together to build the new habits they need to keep it going.
And I love this quote because it just brings it all back down to earth. This isn't about some massive, scary overhaul of your team. It's not about grand gestures. It's built on small, consistent acts. Actually saying thank you, making sure the quiet person in the room gets a chance to speak, being willing to call out when the vibe in the room just feels off.
So that's where I want to leave you. Building an emotionally intelligent team really does start with a single step. So think about your team right now. Forget the big, complicated plans for a second. What is one small thing, one small act that your team could try tomorrow to get the ball rolling?